Hello, comic book friends and nerds and geeks from around the world. This is a YouTube exclusive. And yes, it's another episode of Comic Book Ketchup, where we catch up with our friends on what they're reading in the world of comics. And I'm with one of my favorite comic book nerds this whole thing started because this guy and I started talking about comics. Joshua Noel, welcome. I know you're in new-ish studio. That mic is hot right now. You can't wait to break it in. And here we are. Yeah, watch out. Don't touch that mic. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, doing good, man. It's always great to see your appropriately portioned head.
Oh, yeah. yes, it is. It is very symmetrical and round and shiny today. Look at that shine right there. Look at that glare. If you're looking on YouTube right now, be careful. You might have to wear some sunglasses because the shine on the head is.
Do you ever get like wax or anything? Or is it just
no? But I do. It's all natural. But I will say I'm at the point in my life when I need to maybe a little lotion. A little aftershave, maybe a little tea tree moisturizer on the noggin. So this is not that's right. Well, I have a question for you, Joshua. So this is Comicbook Ketchup, and you've shared with me before your favorite condiments that you use. But if you had to use ketchup on one particular food right this moment, what kind of food are you hungry for to put ketchup on?
I don't put ketchup on many things. I'm pretty much anti-condiment, but hot dogs and ketchup.
Of course,
together, so.
Of course, that's the answer that I expect from my friend Joshua. It's never easy. It's never easy or a great opinion, but that's exactly it. So hot
dogs. I mean, that's like it's an easy one. For everyone who says burger, you're doing burgers wrong. If your burger's good, it doesn't need condiments.
Oh,
that's
so just plain. You're a plain burger guy.
If it's good, which
okay.
It's hard to find someone who knows how to make a burger good. Usually people make it really plain, and then they're like, oh, I got to add all this stuff to it. And they use, not grade A beef. And I'm like, okay, use good beef, season it well. You don't need other stuff. Let your burger taste like a burger.
Man, you about to...
I'm with Ron Swanson.
But I like the Uno reverse card you threw at me because now I'm thinking about a bacon double cheeseburger with mayo and lettuce and pickles and a little bit of ketchup. I don't put mustard on there, but I do like mayo. I think for me, if I was going to answer that question right now, what I'm going to put on my ketchup right now, I love French fries. I'm a French fry guy. I love crinkle fries, and right now going to Al's Burger Shack that I've taken Joshua to before here in Chapel Hill.
And I use ketchup.
I will use ketchup on those fries. Yes, so here we are. We're going to catch up on the comic books that we've been reading lately. Big comic book nerd. I have a big pull list. This upcoming week, it's been kind of slow the last few weeks for me. This upcoming week, there's some big ones coming out. I can't wait to read. But before we get into our main books that we want to share with you all, our friends and our fans, we're going to go in what we call the lightning round. And I guess I need to hit that sound effect. Here we go. Yeah. Get out your umbrella because here comes some lightning and rain. So we're just going to speak through some things rather than main books. Joshua, in the lightning round, what are some books you just want to highlight real fast?
Oh, man.
Like a flash of lightning.
I mostly want to talk about stuff I'm excited for coming up. But
okay, that's fine.
Since I didn't include it in my main pool, I'm going to shout out Aquaman.
Cool.
Those comics are pretty awesome right now. And all the stuff going on with the Ultimates specifically, so it's like the Avengers version of that universe. I think that's been a lot of fun.
Cool.
Jed McKay's Doctor Strange wrapped up. I talked about that a lot on Comic Book Ketchup. Haven't talked about it since it wrapped up because I didn't realize it was over. Like it was one of those where I'm like that. The ending didn't feel like an ending. I feel like, which we'll talk more about this later too. Blood Hunt kind of took me out of a lot of the Marvel stories that were ongoing, and they just haven't pulled me back in yet. So we'll see what happens. But the stuff coming up that I'm really excited for, Hunger in the Dusk has been on a long hiatus. It's killing me. But in March, it's supposed to be back, so I'll get another Hunger in the Dusk with my all-time favorite writer, G. Willow Wilson, so I'm excited for that. Also, coming really soon, we got Marvel and Godzilla stuff going on. So we'll have Fantastic Four versus Godzilla next month. A month after that, I think it's the Hulk versus Godzilla. So it's like a series of one-shots and Godzilla-themed, and I'm pretty stoked for that. That'll be a lot of fun. And the thing I'm probably most excited for
Mhm.
I think I'm going to use this to pull Will into a story that I love and hold dear to my heart.
Okay.
They are doing some reprints of comics that I never got a hold of because I didn't realize they existed until they stopped printing them. Dead Space. We're going all the way back through the Dead Space
Okay.
novels and graphic novels. They're reprinting them all throughout this year. The first one I think that they're reprinting is like next month, and you get a lot of like the backstory to the universe, some great
Okay.
world building.
All right.
I
No, hold
love
on,
the
hold
Dead
on.
Space
You can
universe,
pull
so.
me. Is Dead Space a video game?
Yes.
It's a video game. Did they also did that? What came first? The
The
graphic
game came
novels and
first.
novels. The game came first. Then they expanded the universe with novels and comic books.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
you want to draw me into that universe. Hey, sci-fi video games
Yeah,
into
it's
comic book.
sci-fi and horror, and
I'm ready.
yeah, and it's a lot of political commentary on how we get there. And what's cool about the graphic novel, for the ones who love the video games and are iffy about the comics, the thing with the video game is you don't really get a ton of the story because you're only seeing it through the eyes of Isaac Clarke. The graphic novel and the comics, it gives you kind of a more broad perspective from multiple different points of view instead of just the character you're playing as. So
That sounds on brand
I'm
with
excited.
the T-shirt you're
I'm
wearing right
excited.
now. That sounds very on brand. DC did a Godzilla, DC Hero, Superman,
was great.
Batman, Wonder Woman, Justice League crossover, very very good. So I'm excited to see what with Marvel. There's something else you mentioned out there that I was like gonna comment on, but forgot. Oh, I know what I was gonna do. Trip Fuller right now is looking for suggestions of who to bring to talk at Theology Beer Camp, and I think we need to manifest and kind of ecumenical interfaith work. G. Willow Wilson needs to come to Theology Beer Camp and do a geek panel with us on the geek stage with you and I interviewing her.
Praise
all those
God, that
things.
would be so cool.
So that's I'm going to throw it out there. I'm going to throw it out there in the universe and let the Amni present God manifest or lure that into a reality. And so we'll see what happens with that. I'm going to throw that out there. Maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's a
Hey,
chance.
Be worth it if it was. Yeah.
I know. I just want that to happen so I can see on stage and see Joshua like glow and face light up. Okay, I think you went so long that way. Well, I got to do another lightning. Okay, here comes mine. I'm usually a Marvel head. My first love in comics is Marvel. But my main topics are DC books. They've drawn me over there. So I feel like in the lightning round, I need to talk about Marvel. So Immortal Thor, it continues to be fantastic and great. Al Ewing's weaving a great long form storytelling in the light. It's not just like, oh, I'm writing just 6 issues for the graphic novel. He's writing. We're 19 issues in, and they're all hanging on one another. Really good. Been having fun talking about that with Ryan at Across the Bifrost. I have been liking Wolverine. I'm a big X-Men fan, and they rebooted that one, but still sticking with the legacy numbers. And our friend of Across the Bifrost, Martin Cocola, we just had an interview with him, and he's killing that book. He is a big-time Marvel artist right now that we're friends with on Instagram and talk to a lot, that one day I hope to see at a Comic-Con and hang out and have a beer with. But he's killing it on the Wolverine book. And then like you said, with the Ultimate Universe, that's one that I haven't gotten into. I'm only doing Ultimate Spider-Man right now. The others, I just have to watch my budget with comics, and I've kind of leaned away from that and leaned to some other things with DC. So interesting you bring back, talk about Ultimate, because I do like that line back in the day, and I heard there's good things, but I can't read it all or afford it all. So I'm just gonna kind of wait. But
Yeah.
that's my lightning round when it comes to comics right now, but it's time. Is it time for unless there's anything else you want to add, go into the main books?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
All right, then in that case, we got to do. Okay. I'm doing the air horn. Time for the new one. There it is. All right. So what's the first book we're going to talk about in our main books, Joshua?
You had, I should say.
Okay.
Surprise,
Surprising.
fun one.
Oh.
Batman and Robin Year One. You said you want to talk about. So
Yes. So, one of my favorite comic book creators, Mark Waid, has been in the game for a long time. He wrote Kingdom Come back in the day. It really kicked off our God Loves Geeks book club way back when, and it's just I owe so much to that story and him. And then for a while, he did not connect with the editor in chief at DC, Dan Didio. And so he was kind of pushed to the sideline and not allowed to do a lot of DC work. Now Dan Didio's out of the way. Mark Waid has his fingers in a lot of the DC universe right now. We'll talk about another book later that he's on. Been loving his work. But this story, Batman and Robin, year one, this is like the first year of the team up with Batman and Robin, Dick Grayson. And Dick Grayson's a teenager. He's a kid. He's just coming off seeing his parents killed in a horrible circus accident. And Batman's trying to put him under his wing. Bruce Wayne's put him under his wing. And Chris Samney, who is the artist on this, is one of my favorite artists in the game. He's super good. And so him and Wade together on this book is almost the perfect combo. And I can't sing more praises about this book. It's my favorite book on the shelf right now. The art, the storytelling. I'm a Batman fan. I love Dick Grayson. I love Tom Taylor's work on Nightwing, and that just wrapped up. So now I get to go back to a younger Dick Grayson as Robin. I've always liked Robin. I always loved Dick Grayson. He's like the levity to Bruce's brooding within the comic book universe. So I really, really love what they're doing in this growing relationship, and it's so good. And for those of you who are watching the new Spider-Man cartoon on Disney Plus, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, I really think I've been looking in those credits. There's a couple artists that I'm like, they are pulling from, and I really think Samney should get like credit for that cartoon because they are copying a lot of way how he does things. And just like back in the 60s and 70s with some of the early Marvel cartoons, Jack Kirby was kind of appropriated and used without really his permission or being compensated for. I feel like there's some artists out there now on this cartoon that they're not getting compensated or the credit for this. Maybe not. But anyway, love this book. It starts off just right away. And the tension between Bruce, Alfred, and Dick and trying to figure out what's, the birth of their relationship and how they're going to work together as a team and all their issues that wrapped up, whether it's Bruce's issues with family and his parents, and then his trauma, and then Dick's as well. Is very good. Very, very good. Oh, actually, year one, this is the wrong. So that's not Scott Snyder and Nick Drago. That's absolute Batman. Batman year one is Chris Samney and Mark Waid. So I told you wrong about that, Joshua, but that's okay. That's
I was
absolute
a little
Batman.
confused.
That's
also
all right.
trying not to talk too much. For some reason, they decided now's a great time to do work on the yard beside mine, right outside the window.
And I'm
The
in my
dog
office.
doesn't
You may
like
hear
that.
hear my phone go off every now and then.
Oh, it's not May. You will hear the dog. You won't hear me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Love your dog. He can chime in. Yep.
There
Hey.
it is.
Does he have thoughts about Batman and Robin year one?
Let's not find out.
Okay.
This is him quiet for now.
Gotcha.
We'll see what happens.
Those beagles, they're loud. They're just
Yeah.
doing their job. They're supposed to speak up.
But,
But yeah,
oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, dude, what's your kind of history with Dick Grayson and Nightwing and Robin? And it's definitely Batman. It's well balanced between the two. But in terms of thinking about Robin as a character, do you connect with him? Do you like Robin? Do you not care? I'm afraid to ask, but
I care a little bit less of his early years, I guess. Just because, I don't know. For me, the Batman in Robin, it feels a little campy, and I'm like, I'm not sure I can buy into that. But Dick Grayson as a whole, I started loving him because of Teen Titans. I grew up with that show, and, he was Robin then, but you get to kind of watch him progress into Nightwing throughout the series, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. This guy, he's becoming a man of his own, and you're like, oh, he's so cool. I liked that character in the Arkham game series, as well as I'm trying to think of other things. Oh, I loved him in the this is just Titans, the HBO series. I thought he was cool. Too. And of course, the I can't remember the team on it now for some reason. My brain's blanking, but all the new Titan stuff that you were talking about and the Nightwing comics. Tom Taylor, is that right?
it is.
Yeah, man. All
His
that stuff
run,
was great.
beautiful.
I loved all of those. Had a lot of fun with it. I've actually been wanting to read Batman and Robin, the year one that you're talking about. Like you said, it's money, and it's one of those it does save a little bit to wait and get the graphic novel. So sometimes when I know it's a limited series, I'm like, maybe I'll wait.
I think it's going to be a
like
great
that.
graphic novel. I think
Yeah.
it's one of those things. I'm collecting the single issues just because I love it. And the first issue came out that week we were in Theology Beer Camp, and we went to Mile High Comics. The first issue dropped that week, and I was able to grab it and read it while we were up there. So, good memories with that. But yeah, I think it's going to read fantastic as a graphic novel, and it might be one that I, even though I have the single issues, grab the graphic novel and put it on my shelf as a keeper to pick up one day, just because it's so well done and the art's just fantastic. So, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, my next pick is going to surprise absolutely nobody. I'm talking about Ice Cream Man. Every time a new Ice Cream Man comes out, I have to talk about it. One page horror stories. This was a really interesting, for me, just like the way that it was structured and stuff, I thought was intriguing.
Yeah.
I guess that's the right way to say it. Yeah, they, man, each page is its own story. A bunch of different authors got together, wrote their own ones. I really enjoyed it. I already, we talked about how, like, the last one, I'm like, I'm waiting for it to be a graphic novel. Ice Cream Man's terrible as graphic novels. It's way too hard to read that many Ice Cream Mans in a row without feeling deeply disturbed. And then this one, like, not only is it a good one-shot, it's like each page is a good one-shot. So it's like you get a series of stories all together, and it's like, oh, this is great. Kind of reminded me of the one they released during the pandemic. They had one that they released that was kind of like this, bunch of short stories within the comic. That was like an oversized comic, though. That was fantastic. But what was weird is I kind of read it. I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. A bunch of cute, cool stories, that I'm like isolated. I'll enjoy each one. And there was a lot of ones like that were just like, oh, that was just creepy, short, to the point. We found out the demons of hell, when hell freezes over, what do? We make ice cream. There's a lot of stuff that I'm like,
who did that one? Who did that one?
I
think that was Grant Morrison that did that one. I will say that this is the one issue that I collected of Ice. I don't read Ice Cream Man, but I did see this one. I was like, oh, good. One-page stories, and Patton Oswalt came to Ultimate Comics here in Durham and signed a bunch of copies, and so they had some signed copies on the shelf that I grabbed. So that was kind of fun. But I will say I was a little confused. Some of the stories hit. Some of them I was like, why are we doing one-page horror? Some of them, you could tell why some of the authors should tell long form storytelling, because I had no idea what it meant. Maybe it meant something to them, but some pages hit right, some didn't.
Well, the one I really wanted to highlight, though. So, also, it reminded me of something I should have said during the lightning round. But Jeff Jones is currently doing a comic series. It's like the Hyde Street, something like that. They're horror comics. They're fantastic. They had a holiday one last month, December, 2 months ago, I guess. And then next month we're going to have issue 4 come out. So it's just started. So if you want to get into that, Hyde Street's fantastic. Every street in the world, if you get lost, you might just turn the corner and find yourself on Hyde Street.
Yikes.
And it's a little creepy. It's great.
It's funny that you like horror comics. That's so funny.
It's so weird. Like I don't know, man. Like it's not like I don't like horror movies like that. But like when it comes to comics, I'm like, this is great storytelling.
Okay.
But what I loved in this, I think it's page 11. Jeff Johns, the guy who writes the Hyde Street comics I've been writing, writes one of these one-page stories that I'm like, oh yeah, okay, these are fun. They're not related to anything, and it combined. There were so many callbacks. It's not even the main author of Ice Cream Man. Like Prince writes most of Ice Cream Man, and yet Jeff Johns writes this single one-page story in the middle of it that calls back to like 3 different storylines, and you're like, oh wait. And even when I was writing it, I literally caught myself being like, oh, I forgot about that guy. Cowboy Hat God. I completely forgot about Cowboy Hat God. So
so not as a regular reader, I was kind of like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm glad that you, who is a regular reader, can have a callback and remember what's going on.
So we have this guy. He's going to a TV series. He's making ice cream, right? So first off, you find out he just got out of rehab, which is a callback to one of my favorite Ice Cream Man comics, where a guy gets out of rehab. You think he's talking to the devil. That's this spider telling him all this stuff about not leaving rehab. Then you find out that maybe the spider was the good guy, because when he gets in a cab, who's driving it? Ice Cream Man.
Oof.
And then Here, this guy shows up who just left rehab on this random one-page story, and you're like, "Oh, wait a minute, just left rehab. Is that the same rehab?" Yes, it was. He thinks he found a way to get away from Ice Cream Man, make his own ice cream, and he talks about who told him, Cowboy Hat God, which is a callback all the way to like issue 9 or something, where there's been this guy who showed up in like 2 or 3 comics in the first like 10 issues or something. He showed up at near the end looking for Ice Cream Man, and you're like, oh, this guy's he's gonna be like the one who foils the devil. You know, he's hunting down Ice Cream Man, and we just haven't heard from that guy at all in at least 20 issues, I think. And then here, this random guy leaves rehabs talking about ice cream, and he's like, Cowboy Hat God, and I'm like, okay, so the guy with the cowboy hat is supposed to be God, so that's a fun reveal, and also they haven't forgot about that storyline. It's still there. So a lot of fun connections, and I don't know, it's just fun sometimes to just have really short stories that can still be meaningful. And my last thing, Will.
Okay.
I think what this comic proved to me that was really cool is some of the power of just comic book storytelling in general. Because like a lot of these were like really short to the point where like there's like 2 sentences, and it's stories you've heard before, but because of how it's drawn and illustrated, I'm like, okay, there's something different here. You know, even 2 of the ones I'm thinking of, for example, there's one that's just a boy fell down the well and it never ended. We've all heard that. That's been a part of literally most cartoons I've watched, Adventure Time, all of it. But if it's drawn right, it goes from like, oh, that's kind of whimsical to, oh my God, that's terrifying, actually, yeah. When you think about it. Just like the other one, I don't remember who wrote it, but there's a woman who's like, I'm going to start over, you know, new year, new me, and try new recipes. And if you're really paying attention to the art, the new recipe book has like arsenic, you know, written on the cover and all this stuff. And at the end, she like burns her house down. It's like, I'm going to start over. And you're like, oh. And it's where comic books can be a really fun storytelling medium, because the same words with a good illustrator can take on a whole new meaning. And I don't know, it just really highlights to me why comic books are an important form of art, I think.
They really are. And the whole words with pictures and pictures with words, and how you tell a story with silent panels, but also with words and sound effects that can capture imagination in a different kind of way. Yeah, I love comics.
Oh, man.
Comics
Look at this, Evan. I'm not sure a 6-year-old should be reading. But that's great. I love that.
Of course, Evan would say that. Yep. And Copper has opinions. Copper has opinions about
Copper is very scared of Ice Cream Man.
And
he would absolutely howl at him if the ice cream truck drove by. Yeah.
And of course, being too still and captivated by your words, my lights went off in my room. So, oh man. All right, what's next? Here we go.
All right. Your next one is one that I'm also excited to talk about.
Okay.
Justice League Unlimited. You had issue 3. Yeah, we're talking about issue 3.
Yeah. Again, Mark Waid and then Dan Mora, one of my favorite artists in the game right now, Samney and Dan Mora, both working with Mark Waid on separate titles. It's a dream come true. But yeah, if you like the Justice League Unlimited cartoon, you will like this book. There hasn't been a main Justice League book out for a while, and after the events of Absolute Power, go back and read that event, they decided they're just going to use the Watchtower above Earth and have every single DC superhero a part of the Justice League, and they have a coordinator. It's kind of like systematic ecology. We have so many hosts, and then we have Joshua that helps schedule when we go out for specific teams, and we team up among ourselves about topics we like. So Justice League is that same way. You know, if there's something going on over on the other side of the world, they need 3 Justice League members. That's what they grab, and they go over there. But Mark Waid knows all of these characters. Of course, he knows the big 3. He knows the Trinity, Supes, Batman, Wonder Woman. But there's so many other like Elastic Man and The Question and Martian Manhunter. All those things are going on. And in this particular issue, and issue 3, there is a page that Dan Mora drew of Swamp Thing, and it's absolutely gorgeous. If you're at all familiar with a little bit of Swamp Thing, you're going to want to find it. We have the image up here. It is so good. It makes the book worth it just for that particular image. And is absolutely great. I don't know how long it takes for him to draw or write, or if he has superpowers, but he's been doing a lot of covers and a lot of books, and to be that detailed and not skimp on any detail in this particular art or story is incredible. So there's the cover, Dan Moore cover, and Swamp Thing right there. I know you like this, Joshua. I think it's just I love team books, and I love Justice League book when it's done right with a great creative team. And if you asked me to who would be your ideal team to write Justice League book or Justice League Unlimited, I would say Wade and Mora, and they're on it and they're killing it. So
Yeah, yeah. I probably have read stuff by these guys before. I just don't really recognize the names that much. But
right,
yeah, this page though, beautifully drawn. One of the things I love too is like, so we're already showing like magic's involved. So Superman's not the game changer he usually is.
right.
And why can't I remember the character's name? It's like Zhao or something. It's part of like the. I'm trying to remember the name of that comic. It's like Stranger Times or something. But we got that comic. It's written by Alyssa Wong, and I have it framed usually in my office, so I could have looked and told you.
Oh yeah, it's a new character
don't
that
have it here now. Yeah.
she's on the Justice League here too.
I was like, oh, that's sick. Yeah, I liked that. Her showing up, I was like, oh, hey, Alyssa, because we love her. We love them. They're really cool. But they, yeah. So this page was cool too. One of the things I love too. So it's like magic's getting involved. Whoever the big bad is trying to control some of the big, powerful things of Earth. Also, wants the Justice League to have to watch humanity be punished. So I'm like, okay, wait a minute. What has humanity done wrong? What are the things we're being punished for? So it's interesting the green got brought up. We kind of watch, this is a spoiler full zone, not a free zone. We kind of watch Swamp Thing burn up here. And one thing that I find curious that I'm just not sure about, Swamp Thing says he's already trying to do something about the Amazon being burned down. Then he lights on fire. I'm unsure if it's implying that the bad guy lit Swamp Thing on fire, or if it's saying that somehow he took on all that pain and he's basically choosing to die instead of the forest.
My take on that is that he is so entangled, drinking game of because I say that word a lot. He's so entangled with the green and the environment that this looks like magical being or alien race or whatever that's an ecological environmental terrorist that because they're burning the rainforest and because they're that's why Swamp Thing is being burned up, because he's so entangled with the green itself and the environment.
See, I could see that too. I just wasn't 100% sure what we were supposed to take away from that.
And that's Aquaman. Is that Aquaman like looking right up at I love the idea of like
it was
Aquaman in the swamp staring down Swamp Thing is just towering over him. Such a good image. Yeah, when I got that page, I was like, yep. That's why Dan Mora should, if not already, have won an Eisner, which is like the Oscars for comic book creators.
Yeah. No, it's a fun one for sure. Yeah, and I like how the Justice League's being set up. I'm curious if we're going to find out that the one planning and scheduling all the people for the different things has been corrupted, or if that's what's going to happen next. I definitely think we're going to see more of Swamp Thing. I don't think he actually died here. I feel like they're teasing that whatever the big threat is punishing humankind for something that maybe humankind deserved. We might not even see Swamp Thing end up on the same side as the Justice League the whole time here.
Yeah, he can go either way, man. And depending on what's going on, he's not his alignment isn't necessarily good or evil. He's just like
he's for the green.
He's for the green. His own alignment. Cool.
He fights for the trees. Gandalf asked who was going to do it, and the answer is Swamp Thing. No, actually, the tree himself, isn't it? Who asked who will fight for the tree? Okay, anyway,
Tree
but
beard.
no, it's fun, and I've been catching up on the Swamp Thing current run, and dear God, like it's just philosophically just deep and rich. And if you think that Will was stretching by talking about entanglement, he's not. They straight up pulled from process philosophy, entanglement philosophy, like the whole thing, like the whole series right now has just been philosophical take after philosophical take, and it's been a blast.
And it looks like James Gunn, DC Universe movies, they're going to make a straight up Swamp Thing horror adjacent movie for the
Are
big
they?
screen. Yeah,
I knew
there's a
they were doing
1980s
Clayface.
crazy. Yeah, they're doing like a there's a crazy 80s movie that's just nuts. Is can't believe they got away with a lot of the things from that. I used to watch on HBO as a kid. Probably shouldn't have, but and then they film a Swamp Thing TV series in Wilmington
Yeah,
for a
I
streaming
heard about it,
service.
but
They
never
got
saw it.
canned. They got canned. But yeah, I'm Swamp Thing on the big screen would be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, speaking of Swamp Thing, he also makes an appearance in my next pick. So,
Okay. Go for it.
all right, Batman, Last Night on Earth. The cover to me is really deceptive. I just want to say that. When I picked this up, I thought, oh, cool. It's going to be apocalyptic Batman story where Batman becomes the Green Lantern. No. The lantern is just the Joker's head in
Yes.
a lantern.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
so good. Man, all the way throughout the series, I loved it. So I read the whole graphic novel. It's not new. It came out like 2023, but I just read it, and you're catching up with me. You're not just catching up with comics. But I, guys, I loved this. It's such a good story.
It is good.
Kind of a standalone graphic novel if you pick it up. I definitely think it was good as a graphic novel. I don't know if I would have loved it if I picked it up single issue by single issue.
I picked up single issues.
I feel like I would
but
have gone insane. Like that seems awful the way that
Yeah.
this is structured. Man, I feel for
yeah, I had to definitely remind myself what was going on. Go back and read. But yeah, some things read better as graphic novels. But single issues are fun too because they put them out each
Yeah.
month. And
you. Oh man,
yeah.
I love my single issues. But
Yep.
But yeah, so this one we start off, and it's hey, maybe Bruce Wayne is actually just a crazy person. So we start off in like an insane asylum. Alfred's trying to convince Bruce Wayne that all of this time he's been making up all these stories of the Joker, the Riddler, and all this stuff, right? And it turns out that it was just Alfred trying to protect Bruce, who, as you go throughout the series, I'm not going to do everything because it would just take too long. But like,
Yeah.
Bruce isn't really Bruce; he's a clone of Bruce, made from the original Bruce. All of Earth has been killed, and it wasn't by the heroes or the villains. It was by us, the normal people. We heard Lex Luthor and Superman have a giant debate on television because of shenanigans. And Luthor convinced humankind. Even Luthor was surprised. He convinced us that, you know what? He's right. We are all corrupt by nature, and we should just act on it because that's how when we thrive the best. You know, life hasn't been working the way we want. You know, sure, maybe our government, maybe these things are out to help us, but the system hasn't been working for us. So let's vote in an angry orange rage monster. Or yeah, sorry, no, that's not what happened. What happened instead is they rioted the Justice League Capitol building. Interesting. Batman was the one who opened the door, and that keeps getting brought up. And I love the language of it, of like the reason all the terrible stuff happened was because Batman opened the door. The people came to storm the building, and everyone was like, "Oh no, look, the people are evil. They came to riot." And they were like, "Well, we can't let them in. They'll kill us all." And you know what Batman does? He believes in the people, and he chooses to open the door, and then the people kill them all. And it's like, oh, so it's Batman's. He believed in people he shouldn't have believed in. But then you find out later, Wonder Woman's still alive, and the reason she still fights at all is because Bruce opened the door. He believed in people. And yeah, all the terrible stuff happened. And at the end, you find out, spoilers, the main bad guy was Bruce. Because how badly he got hurt by people after he trusted them. And yet, this younger Bruce clone actually still had hope in people because the original Bruce opened the door. And I love that we have this huge, wonderful, like bombastic comic of like all of the classic comic tropes, right? Like the villain becoming the good guy, of like the monsters flying through the sky. Swamp Thing even shows up because, you know, humanity didn't just destroy itself; it destroyed the planet. You have like all the little things all throughout, like the bombastic villains. We have Darkseid's head shows up on a, you know, like all kinds of stuff, and you're like, okay, this had literally everything. Lex, Superman, Batman, all of it. But like, even though it had all that bombastic stuff, it told like a simple story that I loved, that really asked the reader the question: would you open the door? And I love that. I love that the whole thing is really like yes, bombastic, crazy, fun comic, but also a commentary on like, hey, do we still trust people enough to open the door? Look, they rioted the Capitol. like real life. They rioted the Capitol. They voted
Yeah.
the same bad guy in again. We basically voted Lex Luthor in as president, and now we're left with, would we still open the door?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know if I would. But I do see where, like, that's what allows hope. You can't have hope if you're not willing to open the door. And, man, big questions asked by this silly little superhero comic.
I know these funny books,
Yeah.
and that creative team, Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo, are the best in the business. One of my favorite artists again of all time. And then Scott Snyder, long run on regular Batman series, and this was towards the end of his series. And we talked about Batman and Robin year one. You know, I love these tropes. You usually have these comic books been going on for a long time. They do specials sometimes of what they were like in their early years, and then they do like a futuristic story, dystopian story of this is how it all ends, or how it could all end, or the last ride, the last adventure, or whatever. And so this is definitely Last Night on Earth, spelled with a K. Last night, not with an N, but they so Last Night on Earth, he's the last hero. What does he do? And Joker's his like little sidekick head carry around a jar, commenting on things is pretty fun. And Scott Snyder's known for his horror or kind of mystery and horror books too.
Yeah.
And so doing that Batman style is pretty good.
Also, the Joker bit, I'm not going to sit on this any further after this, but like I love what they did with Joker here. Originally, Batman picks him up because no one will tell him what happened on Earth, so he needs Joker because Joker was around to find out what all happened, and he's just a decapitated head. So he's carrying him around, and in pure Joker fashion, he's cracking up jokes and stuff the whole time. But what shocked me was like at one point, the narrator became Joker, and you could kind of tell the difference of like Joker's like head, like his thoughts on what's happening, as opposed to what he actually says. Like the narrator Joker was much more serious, whereas what he's saying is like all the silly, goofy, usual Joker stuff. And you end up getting this like of course you have what should be. Joker is silly. So you should have the silly narrative where he's like, I want to be Robin. Haha, look, I made a Robin suit. And you're like, okay. Yeah, that's Joker. But then you also have the serious note of like Joker killed all the other Robins and he ends up dying as a Robin. And it turns out this whole time he's the one that believed in Bruce because he knew that what happened to Batman in this universe where he saw that he put hope in people where they turned out to be evil, he saw what happened to him and said, that's not the real Bruce. You're the real Bruce because you still believe in people. And it's like one of those, man, the Joker's character in this, phenomenal. Yeah, he was the silly little side character, but also the guy who killed the Robins becomes Robin and dies as a Robin. And also, Batman's main enemy is the one who told him, no, this is what the real Batman is actually like. I'm not fighting this guy. He's not really Batman.
If you like
good.
how Scott Snyder captures Joker's voice, you should read his run on Batman and what he does with Robin there. I think he was the main.
Right. Yeah.
This was the creative team with the New 52. New 52 was hit or miss for a lot of people, but this creative team on Batman was one of the standout teams. And we're going to talk about Scott Snyder again, another Batman book coming up in just a few minutes. But he. This creative team is good, and the way he captures Joker's voice and really makes him super creepy, super scary. You can have campy Joker too. You're just a crazy clown, or like you would not want to be alone in the room of this serial killer. You'd be petrified. Yeah. So that I think that the way he captures his voice is really outstanding.
No, it was great. It was great.
Cool.
All right. Well, you mentioned it. You just kind of wanted to talk about absolute universe stuff in general. So
yeah, I mean, I think you talked about the ultimate universe, and there's a way to retell some stories in a fresh way with heroes that have been around a long time, with a different angle. Call it multiverse, call it a different planet, whatever. But just a different way to talk about characters that have been around a long time in fresh ways for new readers. And I think what DC's done with this all-in movement and post Absolute Power and Justice League Unlimited, I think the absolute books for me, the big three, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, have been a lot of fun. I know it didn't capture Joshua's short attention span there at the very beginning, but I like to be patient with it and to see what's their fresh take or a different angle on this particular hero. We know all their origin stories like the back of our hands, but if you're going to tell an origin story a little differently, or if it happened in a different world, they're still canon events. They're still their character you recognize. But if things are a little different, how would their story play out? And so Absolute Batman with Scott Snyder and Nick. What did I say? Degata. Uh, Degata. Man, I always have a hard time with his last name. Fantastic creative team. Jason Aaron is writing Absolute Superman. And then, yeah, Dragata. Oh, he's so good. And then Wonder Woman is Kelly Thompson and an artist that I'm forgetting the name at the moment, but it's really good. So all these three of their books I think are good. And it's helped me, as someone who's been reading a lot of comics for a long time, who's reading the same tropes and stories over and over again, can sometimes get stale, get a little bored. Is it holding my interest? But this fresh take on these heroes from this particular alternate universe / different kind of planet has been a lot of fun for me, and has me looking for, like, this week when we're recording this, Absolute Batman, new one. I don't know if it's number 4 or number 5 is coming out, and that's gonna be at the top of my list. I can't wait. I'll probably read it in the parking lot before I even leave the comic book store. So yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I know it doesn't capture as much, Joshua, but that's okay. We know your tropes and as well, but I really like what they're doing with this Absolute universe. It's so good. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, Copper definitely agrees with me. Me. That's right. You tell your owner how much he should like Absolute Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's with
right.
you. He's with you.
I love it so much.
Oh man. So the last thing, not something new to either of us or to comic book world, but I don't know if you know, there a Captain America movie's coming out soon.
It is, and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. We're going to review it, but we mentioned it in a recent episode. I mentioned Captain America: Symbol of Truth.
Yeah.
I thought it might be fun to take a minute of Comic Book Ketchup. I've been rereading it. I don't know how long it's been since you've read this. It's not an old series.
Oh, wow. Right.
It's just a couple of years old, I think. But yeah, Captain America: Symbol of Truth. I don't want to attempt to say that name because I feel like however I attempt to say it will be so.
The
long,
author
it's
is
offensive.
also a sci-fi writer. Sci-fi writer too. I did buy
yeah.
one of his books to start reading. I know when this came out, it was pretty famous to bring an African American creator to write for Sam Wilson and someone who's kind of been in the game of imagination and sci-fi, and it was a pretty big deal when it first came out. And I remember collecting some of these issues and following along for a while, way back when.
Yeah, rereading it, I like it a lot more than I did the first time. Not that I didn't like it the first time. I enjoyed it the first time. I think what happened was this was releasing at the same time as the Sentinel of Truth, and I think I really just didn't like that comic. The Sentinel of Truth was not something I enjoyed,
And
I
that
think
was
the fact
that was Captain America, not Samuel. It was Steve Rogers. So they had these two books going side by side, right? Sentinel of Truth and then Symbol of Truth going side by side. You had two Captain Americas in the world at the same time. Am I right? I think that's right.
Yeah. Basically, Old Man Steve isn't old anymore, so now we have two Captain Americas, Sam Wilson and Steve Rogers, both alive and functioning as Captain America. The Sentinel of Truth storyline was just kind of Steve Rogers realizing everything about Captain America ever has been wrong. It's all been a deep government fake, and I'm like, okay. Sometimes that can be fun, but sometimes when like I don't know, they do so many stories where each time it's like, oh, that last thing was a fake, and then the last thing was a fake of a fake.
Yeah.
And eventually I'm like, I don't care. It's like that one episode of Rick
I'm
and
with you.
Morty of like no, that's a twist to the twist to the twist to the twist because that's what happens in a spy movie. And I'm like, okay, okay. And I think the fact that that was happening at the same time as this, and I was reading them side by side, made me kind of attach some of the feelings for that comic to this one, which I'm sad about because now I'm rereading it like, oh, this is amazing storytelling. The art's pretty phenomenal too. I wish I knew who did the art for this. Maybe we'll look it up, but. No, I enjoyed it a lot. It's the thing that I loved though was once he gets to, so you get to see him interact with a bunch of different characters throughout the world. It's not just Captain America of America, which is also what the actor was trying to say that everybody's mad about.
Golly.
He can be Captain America and also still care about people other than Americans. But
And Chris Evans said the same thing. Nobody got mad. So anyway.
But whatever. No, so he, you get to see him interact with Deadpool. You get to see him interact with Doctor Doom at one point. So it was just fun to see all these different characters through a new perspective with a new writer. But the best part for me was when he ends up in Wakanda, and you get some dialogue with him and Black Panther, and like, what does it mean to be a black man in today's world? And that's not something Will and I could possibly speak to, but getting to read about it and also visualize it in a comic from the perspective of a writer who has lived this,
Yep,
for
yep.
me, it was really
That's what's
enlightening to
important.
kind of see these different perspectives in new eyes and just go, okay, interesting. I don't have any part in the debate. I have no right or reason to be a part of the debate, but I can see why the debate is happening on whether or not, people of color want to embrace America at all or want to shun it. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can listen and chime in a little bit, but I think it's important with the representation of getting creators to write from that perspective and that we take time to listen to it. I think that's what's important. When people get upset that, oh, they're just, they're a DEI hire at Marvel or Disney or whatever. No, if you're going to represent and have these characters of color, then you want people of color to write for them so they can speak to that experience rather than people pretending they know what they know about that. So I think it is important that representation is there. And yeah, folks, if you're going to go see the big MCU movie out there and because you like Captain America and you like Red Hulk and you like Harrison Ford, if you want a good source material that's written way before the movie, this is a good graphic novel to read as kind of source material that leads into that movie. They may pull some of that voice and some not the direct plot, but at least the characterization and the voices of these characters will be portrayed on the big screen. So I think it's cool to read the source material before or after you see the movie to see how they match up.
Yeah. And the thing with the MCU, I doubt we'll get to see two Captain Americas functioning at the same time. So this is our Captain America now. And I love it. I feel like there's a time and place for different heroes. What Steve Rogers did really well was show us the symbols and stuff that we do care about, what actually matters to us. And one of the cool things in the comic was both Steve and Sam Wilson have different shields, and they complement each other's shields in like the first issue. And it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But I think what's important about the movie, my last comment going into this, and you see it through this comic as well. Steve represents the symbols, the virtues that we all aspire to. No one can be Steve Rogers. You don't watch that character and go, "Oh yeah, I relate to him." He's not relatable. Like he's not. He's someone to aspire to, but he's not relatable. And I love that about him. But I like the idea of having the hero of, hey, all of us young people who want to know what does it mean to step in and fill the shoes of those people who came before us. Sam Wilson is our cap. All of the people of color who are like, wait a minute, what about all the stuff that America did to us? Watch the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV series, and you see who was experimented on and other caps that might have existed, and you're like, people who are wrestling with what does it mean to grasp the identity of being a person of color in America today, which is what this comic talks about. Sam Wilson is their Captain America, and it's okay to have more than one. I love Steve Rogers. He will always be my cap. I love Sam Wilson. He will also always be my cap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's important. Like, what does the symbol mean and the shield mean? Yeah, they're dressed in red, white, and blue. Do they represent totally America? Or there's been plenty of times Steve Rogers has protested and gone under different names because he's not proud of what America's done. In the same way we talked about Batman a lot this episode, but the same way there's been plenty of people who have worn the cowl as well and represented Batman, because is Batman just one person as Bruce Wayne, or is it the symbol that Batman represents in terms of justice and fighting crime? To the bat signal in the air, is that's a symbol that criminals and corrupt cops look at and see and say, oh no. So it's the same way there. Other people can wear the costume and represent that symbol. And I think the same way is with Captain America. And there's just going to be some people, because they have a browner skin, are going to be offended by it, similar to the Super Bowl halftime show. But I think there's conversation there, and we'll see what this movie does and what story it's going to tell, and then see what the fallout is, or how people embrace it or resist it. I don't know.
Yeah. And I love that it even says symbol in the title of this comic. And having read a lot of Paul Tillich the last year, caring a lot about symbol this year and how like the symbol itself actually participates in what's happening. And you can see that in the comics and what we're going to see in all of the MCU shows and movies of like America sometimes symbolizes different things. The American flag represents the government, and sometimes it represents like what Donald Trump and Elon Musk is doing right now. And sometimes, it represents stuff that we like a little bit better. The shield of Captain America has really always stood for freedom, for justice, for diversity, equality, and inclusion, if you will.
Ooh. Yeah.
And that's like the shield means more than the flag a lot of the times because it means the virtues that we actually want America to be about. And that's why you see Cap fighting the government sometimes. And that's where we're going to see Sam Wilson take on the President of the United States as played by Harrison Ford. And I can't wait for it. Yeah.
All right, friends. Man, we've gone through all our comics, but now it's time. Yep, that wasn't Copper. That was Godzilla, encouraging us to wrap this thing up and also share recommendations. And so, quick recommendation from what we just mentioned. You know, I'm going to get around something here in a little loophole. Joshua mentioned Blood Hunt. It didn't really land well with him, but there's fallout in the Marvel Universe for that. One of the fallouts from Blood Hunt is that, you know who became Sorcerer Supreme? Doctor Doom. You know who's one of my favorite villains of all time in the Marvel Universe? Doctor Doom. And so they're getting ready to come out with a new series that begins this week called One World Under Doctor Doom, where he becomes not only Sorcerer Supreme, but he's going to block out all of the media and then entitle himself as the emperor of the world. I don't know if there's anything else happening in regular politics where that's happening in our current day life, but Doctor Doom is going to really strive to be emperor of the entire world. And so I can't wait to see this crossover event and see what they do with this. It's going to bleed over to all the Marvel comics, and Doctor Doom's going to show up maybe in the Fantastic Four movie. I don't know. Maybe it's an end credit scene, but he's definitely going to show up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at some point, which I can't wait. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to see how they do this. Ryan North, who's been writing Fantastic Four, is writing this one. And I think R.B. Silva, another artist that I really like, is an artist on this book. So that's what I'm going to pick up in my pull list this week. That's my recommendation. Go get it.
So you're supposed to pick something that we talked about today for this particular series.
Yeah, and you said Blood Hunt, and so that's why I went from Blood Hunt to Doctor Doom. So there you go. That's what I did there.
So I will go with I'm going to go with The Last Night on Earth. I think it was it's a bombastic story. You can just go all over the world, see all kinds of villains and heroes all throughout the series. Like it's so well done, and you don't need to really understand anything other than if you know who the characters are of like Joker, Lex, Batman, Wonder Woman, Dick Grayson. You pretty much know everything you need to know going into it, and it's a wonderful story about hope when in a world that maybe seems like there is no hope, which for me I think makes it incredibly relevant right now.
With writer and artist as peak comics at its best. It's doing what it does.
Yeah, good stuff.
I agree. Cool. Well, thanks, Joshua. It's been cool hanging out with some comics and with ketchup and with French fries and hamburgers and a nice meal of comics that we've set a buffet table of comic books that people can go out and buy and read. And if you need to borrow Joshua's account to read back issues, he'll let you borrow that account. Just message him. And I will say, remember, we are all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.
And remember, share the faith. Share the geek.